If you want to become a SOC analyst, I can guarantee you that you're in one of these situations. You're probably a beginner in the industry, you might not come from a technical background, you don't know how to code, and the main thing is you probably don't have experience, right? So every application comes back as a no, or it might not even come back at all. And you've probably started to wonder if you're missing something that everybody else has. And I'm here to tell you you're not. And I'll tell you exactly what's happening, right? You've just got nothing to show, nothing to point at to a hiring manager, for example, and say, I've done this and here's every single decision I made. And that's the only thing kind of standing between you and your first role. And don't worry, you don't need to be able to code to do any of this. If you can follow instructions, read a table, and write a paragraph that makes sense, you'll be able to do everything in this video. And I'm going to explain every single step in detail, so you won't have to worry. And a quick note from me before we start. I'm Sarvesh. I'm a senior cybersecurity consultant at a big 4 firm with about 4 years of experience in the field. And over the past few years, I've helped hundreds of people, complete beginners essentially, build real experience and land their first cybersecurity roles. And I haven't really helped with certifications, right? This is more with actual defensible experience, something you would add to your resume and show to employers that you've done the work that they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, hiring managers don't care what videos you watch, what kind of theory you've learned. They need to know that you're able to do what they're hiring for, essentially. Okay, before we get into using the tools for today, let me give you a quick brief about the project, because it starts with this one number, 4,312. That's how many security alerts one small company threw out in a single month. 150 people, 4,000 alerts. So here's the uncomfortable question. How many of those did a human being actually read? Almost none. And that's not a scandal, that's normal. Every company that switches on monitoring finds the same thing. The tools fire far faster than people can read them. So the real job of a SOC analyst, it isn't hacking, it isn't hunting, it's triage, 12, 20, 50 alerts in a queue. And you deciding fast and in writing which ones are real, which ones are noise, and which one is about to ruin the month. Miss the real one, the company gets breached while the evidence sits unread, panic at the noise, you drown and you miss it anyway. So here's what I've got for you today, a real morning triage shift. 12 alerts exactly as they landed overnight. 2 of them are real attacks, and one of those 2 is wearing a label that says low, 12 alerts. 2 are real. Let's go find them. So from this point on, I'm not your YouTube instructor, I'm your VCSO, your virtual Chief Information Security Officer, the outsourced head of security for a company too small to have its own. And that's a real job, by the way. It's a job a lot of you watching might end up doing, because most companies in the world are too small to afford a full-time security chief. The company is Cloudora. They build HR software business to business, about 150 people, headquartered in London. And they hold payroll and employee data for a lot of other companies, which is exactly why attackers care about them. And Cloudora has had a rough month. First, an executive account takeover, ticket CLD0001. The CEO's account breached at 3 in the morning through a password spray. Then a payroll phishing campaign, CLD0002. It hit all 40 staff mailboxes and stole 2 sets of credentials. Both incidents were caught late, and both were caught by luck and by users reporting things, not by the monitoring. The monitoring fired, nobody was reading it. So 2 incidents in 1 month. And here's the thing, both times the alerts existed and nobody read them. So I've instituted something Cloudora has never had, a proper triage process. Every alert gets looked at by a human, every alert gets a verdict, and every verdict gets written down to a standard another analyst could pick up cold. And you are that human. This morning you have the queue. 12 alerts arrived overnight from 5 different systems. Identity monitoring, endpoint antivirus, the perimeter firewall, cloud activity alerting, and user reported emails. Reported severities from high down to low. And I'll tell you now what I told you in the brief. Do not trust those labels. They're the opinion of the rule that fired. And rules are wrong in both directions, constantly. I want you to think of it like the waiting room of an emergency department at 6 in the morning. 12 people waiting. One of them is having a heart attack and says he just feels a bit off. One has a loud, dramatic problem that's actually a paper cut. Your job is the triage nurse's job. Not to treat everybody, but to work out quickly and correctly who's sickest, who can wait, who needs a specialist, and who just needs reassurance and a note in the chart. Nobody gets skipped. Everybody gets a verdict. And the chart has to make sense to the next doctor who picks it up. That's this queue. And that's basically the whole job. So before we touch the first alert, here's my promise for this session. Because I want you to know what you're earning. By the end of this shift, you'll have done the single most common thing SOC analysts are actually paid to do, and done it properly. Worked a mixed queue, end to end. You'll have confirmed 2 real attacks, one obvious, one hiding behind a low severity label. You'll have cleared 7 false positives, each with a different root cause, and written down proof, not vibes. You'll have escalated a multi-site anomaly by the book, held an ambiguous alert open with a professional evidence plan instead of a guess, and re-rated severity in both directions, which is the judgment this entire career runs on. And you'll have done all of it in ServiceNow. On a real ticket queue, you built yourself. With 12 written verdicts, you can put in front of a hiring manager. So when an interviewer says, "Walk me through your triage process," and they will, that question is close to guaranteed. You'll have a real answer with 12 worked examples behind it. I'll even script that answer with you at the end. That's the deal. Let's earn it. Okay, what we're going to do is take our first alert right now before we even set up the ticketing system, because I want you to feel how fast a good verdict falls out when you work in the right order. Alert CLD0101, source, identity monitoring, reported severity, high, 18 failed sign-ins on an account called SVC backup between 20 to midnight and just after, followed by a success. An account that fails 18 times and then gets in. If your stomach tightened, good. That's the correct first reaction. Somebody hammering a password until it works is exactly how the CEO got breached last month. Now here's the first rule of triage, the one that will save you the most time across your whole career. Before you hunt the exciting explanation, check the boring one. In an emergency department, before anyone orders a scan, somebody asks the basic questions. Did you fall? Did you eat today? Any history? Most mysteries die right there. Our version of those questions is the shift handover, the change records, the schedules, the help desk queue, boring. And it kills more alerts than any tool I own. So read the handover right there. Change record CHG2088 backup platform credential rotation. Last night 2300 to 0230. And I quote, brief authentication failures were expected during the window. An announced maintenance job rotating the passwords of backup service accounts in exactly the window our alert fired. Now, is that alone a verdict? No. And this distinction is the entire discipline, so lock it in early. Context opens a hypothesis. Evidence closes it. If I close this ticket just because a change window existed, I'm gambling that no attacker happened to strike during a convenient window, and attackers love convenient windows. So we spend 60 seconds confirming the data actually fits the boring story, open the sign-in evidence and filter to the account. Look at the shape of it, 18 failures, all error, 50126, which means invalid credentials, all from 203.0.113.20, and check what that address is. It's LDN SRVBK1. The backup server itself, the account is failing from its own machine. Evenly spaced, every minute or so, like a metronome. That is not human guessing passwords. That's software retrying on a timer. Now compare that against the scary story. A brute force attack doesn't politely stop at 18 tries. It doesn't come from the target's own server, and it doesn't resolve itself with a clean success the moment a maintenance job completes, and then never misbehave again. Every feature of this data fits the rotation and fights the attack. So say the verdict out loud, because you've just earned it. False positive, expected maintenance activity. Severity and note we're overruling the rule here. Reported high, re-rated to informational. The failures were pre-announced and nothing ever touched that account from outside its own host. Action, close it, and reference CHG2088 in the ticket. And one more thing that separates professionals from ticket closers: recommend a tuning change. So that service account failures inside an approved change window stop. Paging humans are all. Amazing, that's your first verdict, and it took 5 minutes. And I want you to notice what actually did the work. Not a security tool, a change record, and 60 seconds of evidence. Most alerts in every queue on earth die exactly like this. And closing them fast with written proof is what buys you the hours you'll need for the one alert today that deserves them. Because it's in here. We'll get to it. Quick pause before we build the lab. Because here's something I've noticed doing this for a while now. The people I see actually win, the ones who land the role. They don't just watch these tutorials, they do them. And a lot of people coast. That's just the truth of it. Watch, nod along, move on to the next video, and nothing really changes. So if you're serious, if you actually want to see results from this, do this one with me properly. Pause where I pause. Write all 12 verdicts yourself. Finish with something you can actually put in front of somebody. And everything you need is already there. The alert queue, the evidence files, the worksheet, the answer key. It's in the internship, first link in the description. Then when you've written your shift summary, post it in there. You'll get it looked at properly, which means you walk into interviews with work that's been checked, not just watched. Right, let's build your queue. Okay, let's build the lab. And here's the thing. This time the lab is not a query engine. It's a ticketing platform because Triage lives in tickets. We're using ServiceNow, and I picked it for one blunt reason. It's everywhere. Walk into a random enterprise SOC and the odds are very good. The queue you'd work lives in ServiceNow, which means I ran a triage queue in ServiceNow is a sentence a hiring manager doesn't have to translate. 2 honest notes, because I promised you guys I never pretend. First, ServiceNow gives every developer a free personal instance, a full private copy of the platform. It costs nothing, which is good for you guys. It does hibernate when you leave it alone, like a laptop going to sleep. That's not broken, that's napping 2 to 5 minutes and the login page comes back. Second, ServiceNow sells a dedicated security incident module that big SOCs often bolt on. Its availability on free instances varies, so we're running our queue on the core incident table instead. And I want you to hear this clearly, that changes nothing about what you're learning. Triage discipline lives in the verdicts, not in which table stores them. A triage nurse is a triage nurse in any hospital building. And the full click by click for everything I'm about to do, every screen, every button, every failure case is written out in the student guides. So if you're following along and something on your screen looks different from mine, the guide has an, if you see this, instead note waiting for you. You never need to scrub back through this video to catch a click. Okay, now we load the 12 alerts in. This is the fiddliest few minutes of the whole build, so I'll go slowly. Everything in ServiceNow lives behind all. Top left, click it, and just type what you're after. Import set, there it is. System import sets, and the one we want is load data. Now before we fill anything in, here's the mental model, because it makes the rest of this obvious. 3 stages, the file lands in a staging area. Then a map tells ServiceNow which column becomes which field on the ticket. Then a transform runs that map and mints the tickets. Load, map, transforms. So import set table, create table, and give it a label. Cloud Aura alert queue. Now watch the name field underneath service. Now fills that one in for you. That's the staging table it's about to build. Source of the import file, and choose Cloud Aura Alert Queue.xlsx from the packs resources folder, sheet number 1, header row 1. The defaults are right here, but check them anyway. Because if that header row is wrong, every single column imports as garbage. And submit. It'll sit on running for a few seconds while it processes, and there it is. Complete, success, process 12, inserts 12, errors 0. 12 rows are now sitting in the staging table. The data is in the stockroom. Next, we tell ServiceNow which column becomes which field on the ticket. Right, the data's in the stockroom. Now we label the shelves, all transform map and create transform map. Name it something you'll recognize in 6 months. Cloud Aura alerts to incident. Source table is the staging table we just built. Target table is incident. That's the whole idea. This row becomes that ticket. Submit and the map exists. Now, a deliberate choice, and it's the exercise itself. We are not mapping the reported severity. That number is the rule's opinion. If I pre-fill it into your ticket, you'll anchor to it. You're going to set impact and urgency yourself, alert by alert as verdicts. So run transform, pick the import set we loaded and run it. Transformation complete, success. And now the bit that actually matters. Open the incident list. Switch the search from number to short description, then star CLD-01, the star matters. Without it, ServiceNow does a range match and hands you every ticket in the instance. 12 of 12. That is a real analyst's morning. 12 claims on your attention, 5 different systems shouting in 5 different accents. So let's log the one we already worked, CLD-0102. One thing first, and the guide doesn't warn you about this. The incident table makes caller mandatory. Leave it empty and update just refuses. Any user will do. The caller isn't the exercise. Verdict paragraph into the work notes. This is the bit a hiring manager reads. Impact 2, urgency 1, and watch. Priority, service. Now calculates that for you from the 2. Update 1 worked, and the fast win from earlier CLD 0C101. Same shape, verdict in the notes, referencing change CHG 2088, impact 3, urgency 3, informational 2 down, 10 to go, and the queue is already thinner than when you sat down. Okay, a concept I want you guys to lock in, because knowing this is half the calm. Every alert you will ever triage ends in one of 5 verdicts. Only 5, true positive. It's real, and I can prove it. False positive. The rule fired, but the activity is explained and authorized, and I can prove that instead. Duplicate, same event, second ticket, cross-reference, and close. Escalate, real or too big to judge at my level. Package it and hand it up. And hear me on this one. Escalation is a verdict, not an admission of defeat. The triage nurse who calls the cardiologist is doing the job, not failing it. And 5th, insufficient data. I can't defend any of the other 4 yet, and here is exactly what's missing and where it lives. That's the one beginner's fear and senior's respect. And one alert in today's queue exists purely to make you write it. Severity next, and this is the matrix on your worksheet. Severity is impact times confidence, never the number the rule shipped with. Ask 2 questions. If this alert is true, how bad is it? An executive account, client data, or several machines? High impact, 1 ordinary user or laptop, medium. Something that was blocked or never worked, low. And I don't care how scary the source looked. Then, how sure am I? Confirmed, probable, possible, high impact, and confirmed. That's a Sev 1. Drop everything. Blocked and confirmed, informational, whatever the adrenaline says. Who is sickest, not who is loudest. The heart attack that says he feels a bit off outranks the paper cut that's screaming. And then here's the thing. The part that makes all of it employable, the verdict gets written down. 7 parts, 1 paragraph. The alert. Your hypothesis, both directions, because naming the innocent explanation up front is what keeps you honest. The evidence you checked, and you name the actual sources. The verdict. The severity you assigned, including where you overruled the reported one and why. The action and the justification, which has exactly 1 test. Could another analyst, reading only your paragraph, retrace your steps and agree? In the emergency department, the chart isn't paperwork after the medicine. The chart is the medicine because the next doctor treats off it. Same here. Work that isn't written down didn't happen. Alert 2, and I'll tell you up front, this one is real, so watch how the method behaves when it isn't noise. Endpoint antivirus, reported high. a detection called Trojan Win 32 steelgen.b on workstation LD NWS117, Liam Doyle's machine. 4 detections between 2:13 and 2:41 in the morning. Now, SteelGen is a credential stealer. Hold on to that one. It decides the severity later. And here's the line that matters. Quarantine failed every single time. So, hypothesis, both directions. Always. If this is malicious, there's a live infection on that laptop, actively resisting removal. And if it's benign, it's a false detection or a stale alert about something that's already been cleaned. Both of those happen constantly in real SOCs, so neither one gets a win by default. Context first, 30 seconds, check the handover, no change record, no deployment, nothing that puts new software on that machine overnight. So nothing boring explains this one into the evidence. Now read the antivirus log like a story, top to bottom, because the order is the evidence. 2 days ago, this same machine ran its scheduled scan, clean. Then last night, 2:13, a detection in the user's app data folder, a file calling itself wsync.exe sitting inside a folder dressed up to look like a sync service. Quarantine failed. Reason, file in use. 2:19 again, failed. Access denied. 2:27, failed. And read the reason this time, file recreated. The antivirus deleted it and it came back. 2:41, a second file appears, same folder, wsync_upd.exe, and that one fails quarantine too. So now apply the one question that separates our two hypotheses. Does a false detection resurrect itself? No, it doesn't. A false positive is the scanner being wrong about a harmless file that is sitting still. This file is not sitting still. It's regenerating under new names faster than the tool can kill it, which means something on that machine is executing and defending itself. So the benign story cannot produce this data. And that is what confirmation actually feels like. Not a feeling, an elimination. Verdict, true positive, active malware. Severity, use the matrix. Confidence first, confirmed. Impact, one host. But remember what SteelGen is. Every password typed on that laptop, corporate or personal, is potentially in somebody else's hands right now. So confirmed plus that blast radius. Lands this at Sev2. Work it now. Action, and this is where triage hands over to response. Isolate the machine from the network. Raise an eradication and reimage job with IT. And because of what a credential stealer does, reset Liam's password and revoke his sessions today. Then watch his account for a few days. In the worksheet's MITRE field, this is T1204.002, user execution of a malicious file. And notice something. The false positives today get no MITRE tag at all. Because MITRE describes attacker behavior, and a false positive doesn't have any. So log it. Impact 2, urgency 1, verdict paragraph in the work notes. And this one does not get resolved. It stays open because a ticket that is still bleeding does not leave the department. That's 2 worked. And before you relax, remember what I told you in the brief. There are 2 real attacks in this queue, and the other one isn't wearing a high badge. Alert 3, firewall, reported medium, an internal machine port scanned 180 hosts overnight, 4,000 ports. Internal reconnaissance is a classic post-breach move. So, hypothesis, either someone is inside mapping our network, or that machine is supposed to scan. Handover check, the vulnerability scanner, LDN scan 01, runs its authorized sweep every Monday night into Tuesday morning, and the source address matches it exactly. Evidence check, because context opens and evidence closes. The traffic is sequential probes, no data moving, no follow-on alerts. That's scanner behavior. An intruder doesn't knock on 4,000 doors and enter none. Verdict, false positive, authorized scanner. Informational. And the professional finish, recommend an exception for that. One host in its approved window only, through change control. Never disable the rule itself, because the day an attacker scans from anywhere else, or the day someone compromises the scanner and runs it on a Wednesday, that rule is the tripwire. Alert 4, and this one deserves more respect than it'll turn out to need. identity monitoring, 5 failed MFA prompts for Nina call between 6:31 and 6:47, then a success, and a new authenticator device registered 2 minutes before it. If your alarm bells rang, they should have password known. MFA hammered, new device enrolled. That is note for note how the CEO's attacker built persistence in the August incident. This exact shape has burned this exact company. So this is where the evidence matters more than the echo. Filter the sign-in slice to Nina. Every event, the failures included, comes from her usual Manchester office address, on her usual Windows machine, in her usual morning window. Now think about what MFA fatigue actually requires. An attacker somewhere else entering her password, which means the attempts come from an address that is not hers. There is no such address in her data. And then the human channel closes it. Helpdesk ticket HD4471, opened at 7:05 by Nina herself. New phone, cannot re-enroll authenticator. Please help. She was fighting her own MFA and losing, like all of us have. Verdict, false positive, user error, during a phone swap, informational, close with the help desk reference, no reset needed, and keep the lesson. The same alert shape can be a takeover or a Tuesday. The difference was never the shape, it was where the events originate, and you checked. Alert 5 arrives with a human attached. James Holt, the same James Holt who reported the phishing email that opened the payroll investigation, has reported another one. Subject, your August payslip is ready. His note says, after last week, I'm not clicking anything from payroll, please check. And under the policy I set after that incident, every user report gets triaged, no exceptions. So this ticket isn't an interruption. It's the policy working. Run the routine on the raw file, never in a mail client, from address payroll@cloudaura.io. the real domain, which proves nothing by itself because spoofing exists. Authentication results, SPF pass, DKIM pass, DMARC pass, and here's the question that actually decides it. Pass for which domain? For cloudaura.io itself, fully aligned. Receive chain bottom to top, the message was born on Cloudaura's own notification server and never left the building. A spoof arrives from outside, this never traveled. Verdict, false positive, legitimate internal mail, informational, and now the action. And I mean this as strongly as anything in this video. Reply to James, thank him, tell him it was genuine, and tell him to keep reporting. That reporting reflex is the control that caught the last real attack. It's also the most fragile control the company owns. Because the first time a reporter gets silence or an eye roll, they stop reporting. And the next fish sails through unannounced. False positives from users are not attacks on your time. They're proof the alarm system has batteries in it. Alert 6. Reported medium from a source we haven't seen yet, the Antivirus Daily Digest. An automated 8 a.m. summary that opens tickets. Read it. One device with active unresolved threats. LDNWS117. SteelGen.B. Stop. Look at the queue. You've seen this before. Same machine, same detection, same unresolved status as CLD0102. This is not a new event. It's the same event arriving through a second pipe. Verdict. Duplicate. Close it and do the one thing that makes a duplicate close professional instead of lazy. Cross-reference both tickets, each pointing at the other. One patient, one chart. If the same man is registered twice in the waiting room, you don't diagnose him twice, but you absolutely staple the two registration slips together. So that's 6, half the shift. Count the score with me. One real attack contained 5 tickets closed with written proof, 5 different reasons, a change window, an authorized scanner, a fumbled phone swap, a genuine email, a duplicate pipe, 0 closed on a shrug. The queue is thinner and every closure would survive an audit. That's what a good morning looks like. Now it gets harder, because the second real attack is in the back 6, and so is the alert with no answer at all. Okay, so here's where I stop driving. Alerts 7 through 12 are yours, and they're built to make you use everything from the front 6 without me pointing at the answer. Let me walk the queue with you once. Briefing only. CLD 0107. Cloud alerting says over 1,000 files were deleted from an HR archive at 3 in the morning. Under the account of the head of people and payroll. Before you spiral, read your handover very carefully. Then ask what the malicious version of this would have to look like and check whether it does. CLD 0108, identity monitoring, and it came in wearing severity low, a single successful sign-in at 3:54 in the morning. No failures. From London, which is the right city. I'll say exactly one thing. Build the baseline before you believe the badge. CLD 0109, the firewall says 3 workstations in 3 different offices. Started talking to the same brand new internet host at the same time, once a minute, like clockwork. Before you touch it, reread the escalation rules in your handover, out loud if you have to. And ask yourself honestly, whose call is this? CLD 0110, identity monitoring again, and the source address will make your blood pressure spike because you've seen it before in the CEO incident. Read the result code on every row before you decide anything. What actually happened versus what was attempted is the entire question. CLD 0111, a reported email, an invoice from a supplier that the reporter in accounts payable isn't sure the company even uses, with an attachment he doesn't think he opened. I'll tell you now, this is the hardest ticket of the day, and not because the answer is complicated. It's hard because the honest answer is uncomfortable, and writing it down takes more nerve than either of the confident ones. And CLD 0112, impossible travel, one account, Dubai and London, 42 minutes apart. You cleared a travel alert on this exact user in the CEO incident, but don't let that make you lazy, because last time the same rule name was also a live takeover on somebody else. Read every row and pay attention to the columns nobody reads. So work them exactly like we worked the front 6. Read. Hypothesis both ways. Boring explanation first, then evidence, then a 7-part verdict on the worksheet and in the ticket. The student guide has targeted hints for each one if you stall, and the answer key has my full worked verdicts. But the deal is the deal. Attempt every alert before you open it. The reps are the skill. There's no shortcut through them, and honestly, you guys don't need one anymore. Okay, one more deliverable before the worksheet moment, because every real shift ends the same way, with the handover you write for the next person. 12 lines, 1 per alert, id, verdict, severity, action, then 3 sentences. What's still open, what you escalated, what you recommend tuning, that's the whole thing. Your VC, so me, reads it in 2 minutes. And those 2 minutes are how leadership sees your entire morning. So make the 12 lines earn it. And notice something as you write yours. By the end of this queue, you'll have generated something like 6 tuning recommendations. Count them. That list is you making next Tuesday's queue smaller, which is the quiet difference between an analyst who works a queue and an analyst who improves one. Okay, so here's the deliverable of deliverables, and it fits on 1 page. The triage verdict worksheet, 7 fields, the same 7 parts you've been speaking all session. It looks almost insultingly simple. And that's the point. The thinking is the hard part. This page is just the shape of the thinking. Blank, it's a form. Filled, it's proof of judgment. And here's the same page filled in, the malware verdict from this morning. Read the justification line. Because here's the thing, that's where the money is. It doesn't say malware found, escalated. It says a false detection cannot fail, quarantine 3 different ways and recreate itself under a new name, so execution is confirmed. And the clean scan 2 days prior brackets the infection window. That's evidence that rules the alternative out. somebody can pick this page up in 6 months with no memory of today and know exactly what happened and why the call was right. 12 of these is not busy work. It's a portfolio, 1 page of proven judgment at a time. Put it in a repo, clean README, 1 folder per shift. So when an interviewer asks for an example of your judgment, you hand them a page instead of an anecdote, and watch what that does to the room. Okay, take a breath and tally the shift. You built a live ticket queue in ServiceNow and imported a real alert load into it. You worked a mixed queue with the discipline most people never learn. Boring explanation first. Evidence over adrenaline, severity from impact times confidence, instead of from the label on the tin. You confirmed an active credential stealer and contained it in the right order, and you cleared noise with proof, a change window, a scanner, a phone swap, a genuine email, a duplicate feed. So that's not content you watched, that's a shift you worked. Now, the payoff I promised. There's one question you're close to guaranteed to hear in any SOC interview. Walk me through your triage process. Most candidates improvise it, and it shows. You're going to answer it like this, and I want you to genuinely memorize the spine of it. When an alert comes in, I start by reading what the rule actually detected, not what its name implies, and I note when the activity happened versus when the alert fired. I form a hypothesis in both directions. What this looks like if it's malicious and what the innocent explanation would be. I check context first, because change windows, scheduled jobs, help desk tickets, and incident history clear most alerts fastest. Then I pivot into the raw evidence. Sign-in logs, email headers, endpoint logs, and I baseline the user or host, because anomaly only means something against normal. I land on 1 of 5 verdicts: true positive, false positive, duplicate, escalate, or insufficient data with a specific collection plan. I set severity from impact and confidence, not from the alert's default. And I write the verdict so another analyst could retrace it. Evidence named, alternative ruled out, action attached, and then the last line. And I ran that exact process across a 12 alert queue in ServiceNow. So I'm happy to walk through any verdict in detail. That's the one that ends the interview segment early, because nobody else in the waiting room can say it. Practice the whole answer out loud twice, and it's yours forever. So your tasks, and you guys know them, verdicts for CLD 0, 107 through 0, 112 on the worksheet and in the tickets, the 2-minute shift summary, the tuning table, and the 2 written reflection questions in the guide. Make sure you attempt every single one before you open the key. And last thing, career advice from somebody who reads a lot of CVs. The analysts who get hired first are rarely the ones who know the most tools. They're the ones a hiring manager can trust with a queue on day 2. And that trust is built from exactly what you practice today: judgment under noise, honesty about uncertainty, and paperwork another human can stand on. Those 3 transfer to every SOC on earth, every platform, every decade of this career. Tools get replaced, the triage nurse does not. So finish the 6 verdicts, write the summary, ship the repo, and label it on your CV as a simulated client engagement, never as employment. Then notice quietly that you now do something most aspiring analysts cannot. Look at 12 screaming alerts and know with evidence which 2 matter. Keep that, it compounds. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Do the tasks, post your shift summary in the internship, and I'll see you guys on the next engagement. I'm Sarvesh. Go build some real experience. So here's the real ask, and I'll keep it honest like always. If today felt like work you'd happily be paid for, come do the internship. 3 things are waiting for you in there. Every project in the SOC track, not just this one. So your portfolio becomes a body of work instead of a one-off. A room full of people working the same queues and chasing the same first job. So the grind stops being solitary. And the one I genuinely think matters most, you post your shift summary in there and it gets read properly. You find out what a hiring manager would actually think of it. Which means in an interview, you're not saying I did an online project. You're saying my triage work was reviewed and here's what I improved from the feedback. One of those sentences gets follow-up questions. The other gets a job description read back at you. It's the first link in the description. Post your shift, I'll find it.